All right, M Sports Crew, we are back. It's officially week one. Obviously, we know everybody's going to be talking about the LSU versus Clemson, Texas versus Ohio State, Miami versus Notre Dame, but I want to get into some matchups that these teams are going to be sleeper teams in their conference that could possibly get to to their conference games. I believe Georgia Tech is a sleeper team that I could see possibly getting to the ACC championship against possibly Clemson, hell, maybe even Miami, whatever the case may be. And Colorado, I don't think they're going to win the Big 12, but they are one of my teams. I think they're going to surprise people in the Big 12. They're going to be better than what people expect them to be, in my opinion. Do I think they're going to start off hot? Not exactly, but by the end of the year, I think people are going to be talking about Colorado a little bit more than people expect. So let's get into this. We got Georgia Tech versus Colorado. So I'm going to get into Colorado first. Now, last year, offensively, they were 68 nationally, right? They passed the ball. They passed 318 yards a game. They rushed for only 65 yards a game. Defensively, they were 50th ranked nationally. They allowed 200 yards passing. They gave up 151 yards rushing. Now, Colorado, obviously, we know what they do in the transfer portal for the last 2 years. They were ranked 19th overall according to 24/7. They brought in 33 commits from the transfer portal. Now, they lost a lot at that wide receiver position between Travis Hunter, LaJohntay Wester, Will Shepard, and Jimmy Horn Jr. They lost a lot of production. So a lot of it's going to be on Draylon Miller and Amarion Miller this year. And Amarion Miller, I think he's going to have a breakout year this year. He averaged 21 yards a catch. So that's basically two first downs. So I think he's going to have a big impact. The question is, what can they get from the transfer portal? Obviously, they brought in some wide receivers. Sincere Brown, he's a 6'5" guy. Hakeem Williams from Florida State transfer. He was a 5-star wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken. He was supposed to have a lot of production at Florida State, and it just didn't work out. He even made a comment, reportedly, allegedly saying that he feels like he's getting developed at Colorado compared to what he was getting at Florida State. So he's another big guy too. He's 6'2", roughly around 220. So if they can get some production from these guys, I think they'll be fine in the wide receiver production. It is going to be how they mesh together with either Kader Salter or Julian Lewis. Who knows? I still don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I think Kader Salter is going to start the game, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if he keeps that quarterback position for the rest of the year. We'll see how that goes. That's going to be the question for me. And then at cornerback, they brought in a freshman. I think he committed to Kansas State at first, whatever the case may be. He's a 6'2" guy, Noah King, 6'2" guy, 200-pound guy. And obviously, with DJ McKinney, I think there's a lot of buzz with him being a first-round draft pick. He had 43 tackles last year, 3 interceptions, 8 PDs. And obviously, they brought in a lot of guys in that offensive line, defensive line front. We know Colorado still have yet to find that formula with those guys just yet these last 2 years. Once again, they only rushed for 65 yards a game last year. They need a lot more production in that to even contend in the Big 12 or even beat Georgia Tech at that. Let's put it that way, and stop the run as well. They allowed teams to rush on them a lot. So that's the question when it comes to Colorado's like replacing those wide receivers, and can that O line and D line finally get it together? That's the question for Colorado. Now, Georgia Tech, they had 24 commits in the transfer portal. They were fifth in the ACC according to 24/7. We obviously know they lost Eric Singleton Jr., the wide receiver. He transferred to Auburn. He was top wide receiver for them the last 2 years. How explosive he was. Losing him was a big loss for them. He had over 700 yards, 3 touchdowns, but collectively, I believe he had over 2,000 yards at Georgia Tech. We know how good of a wide receiver he really is, and I think he's going to do great at Auburn. Now, obviously, the guys they're going to have to use to replace him, Rutherford, he had over 700 yards, 3 touchdowns. Avery Boyd, he had over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns last year for Georgia Tech. They also bring in 5 wide receivers in transfer portal, they bring in a guy, Eric Rivers from FIU. He had over 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns last year. He averaged 18.9 yards a catch. So you're going to need that, especially using Eric Singleton Jr. And then also they get another guy from FIU, his teammate Dean Patterson. He had over 600 yards, 7 touchdowns. He averaged 13.7 yards a catch. So that's a lot of production coming in, and I think that's going to be great for Haynes King. So I expect them to be able to have those guys come in. I expect them to make a big impact to where they can make up that production with Eric Singleton. I think they'll be fine there. Obviously, we know they're going to run the ball. With Jamal Haynes, he had over 900 yards, 9 touchdowns. And Haynes King, he's a dual threat quarterback. He rushed for over 500 yards, 11 touchdowns. So I think they'll be fine. Now, the key to this game, I'm going to start with Colorado first. They have to stop the run. It's real simple for me. If they don't stop the run, they're not winning this fucking game. You have to stop the run and don't allow Georgia Tech to stay on the field and control the clock. If Georgia Tech is just running it down your throat, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to lose. I'm a Miami fan. The last 2 years, I know what it felt like to not be able to stop the run and how they just controlled the clock. And ultimately, we lost both back-to-back years to Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech, they know how to run the ball. They're great at running the ball. If you can't stop the run, you're in trouble. Look at Georgia Tech versus Georgia last year. Go watch that highlight game on YouTube. They went to 8 overtimes. Georgia Tech is a really good program, man. They develop guys. They know how to. Once again, Eric Singleton, he's going to Auburn. He's a big transfer pickup for them. Jaheir Gibbs was there at one point before he transferred to Alabama. They had Calvin Johnson, sorry. We know what he was, a Hall of Famer. So Georgia Tech knows how to develop guys, and they continue to grow as a program. And if Colorado can't stop the run and get turnovers, even if you can't stop the run against Georgia Tech, because I don't think they're going to completely stop the run, but you have to get turnovers at some point to help your defense out. You're going to have to do that. And once again, Colorado, keep Georgia Tech off the field. Like I said before, they only average 65 yards a game rushing. So they're going to need a lot more production there if they want to even stay in this game with Georgia Tech, in my opinion. Right? And the question is Caden Salter or is it Julian Lewis and those wide receiver connections for week one? That's going to be the question for me. But Colorado has to stop the run. If they can't stop the run, they're not winning this game. It's real simple. All right. And if I'm Colorado thinking offensively, if I can rush the ball, keep them off the field, that's a plus. That's going to help you to help your chances of winning this game. Or if you're Colorado, hey, let's get in the shootout, right? Let's get down the field. We clearly can't rush the ball. Let's get down the field. We got to score, and we got to depend on our defense to get turnovers. And we have to force Georgia Tech somehow to throw the ball. We don't want them running the ball. There's a lot of questions here for Colorado here. That offensive line and defensive line. It's really going to come down to that. Now for Georgia Tech. Once again, Georgia Tech average passing, they passed for 220 yards a game. They rushed for over 187 yards a game. Run the ball. We run the ball. We control the clock. We are playing Georgia Tech football. I'm playing Colorado. Y'all got to prove to me that your defensive line can stop us. It's real simple. Prove to me because I believe Colorado is going to have a really good secondary. I believe their secondary is going to be better than what people expect, even though they lost Hunter and Shiloh. But I think their secondary is going to be okay. We're running the ball. You got to prove that you can stop us. Real simple for us. We're going to force Colorado. Y'all got to stop us. That's it. Run the ball, control the clock. Keep Colorado off the field. And then defensively, we're going to force Colorado to run the ball. We're not allowing them to pass the ball. Like I said before, they only rushed for 65 yards a game last year. So we want them to try to run the ball. We're stopping the pass. We want them to try to run the ball. You're playing Georgia Tech football if I'm them. And then I want to see Haynes King, like I said before, those transfer wide receivers coming in, that chemistry. Who is that guy that steps up to the next level now that you lost Eric Singleton? But overall, my winner of this game is Georgia Tech. There's a lot of questions for me when it comes to Colorado, as far as wide receiver production, offensive line, defensive line, losing a guy like Hunter, losing Shador. Those are big production guys. I have a lot of questions, and I just think Georgia Tech is just, they're going to be one of those teams that by the end of the year, I can see Georgia Tech being ranked. And I just think Georgia Tech pulls away. By the fourth quarter, I think this game is going to be over, especially if Colorado can't stop the run. This is going to be a Georgia Tech game, in my opinion. So I have Georgia Tech winning this game, but I do want to see that there's glimpse of Colorado. Okay, we're going to build on from here. But overall, I have Georgia Tech winning this game. So, M Sports Crew, you put in your comments now. Who do you think is winning this game? How do you think Georgia Tech is going to be in the ACC? How do you feel about Colorado in the Big 12? Till next time, it's week one. Let's get it.